Thank you for calling Wideband Systems. If you know your party's extension, please dial it now. For sales and customer service, please dial 3. For engineering, please dial 4. For accounting, please dial 5. For all other assistance, please dial 0.
Your call is being transferred.
Good afternoon, Wideband Systems. Regina speaking.
Yes, good morning. Pierre Buchmann speaking from Expan in France. I would like to speak to March, please.
And your name again? I'm sorry.
Buchmann, Pierre Buchmann.
Pierre Beshman. And the company you're with?
Expan, E-X-P-A-N.
E-X-B-A-N?
P-A-N.
T-A-X-N. Okay. And your first name again? I'm sorry. One
Pierre.
more time. Pierre. Okay. And it's regarding?
It's regarding some question I sent to. We have in fact a communication between us, between Marge and us,
Okay.
regarding recorders and future projects and so on.
Oh, okay. One moment, please.
Hi, Pierre. This is Marsh.
Marge, good morning. I hope I am not disturbing you.
Well, it's afternoon for me, but I bet, let's see, you're,
Six-
I'm thinking
6 hours, 6 hours ahead of you.
late ahead of me. Okay, so you're 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock.
Even 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm just calling, in fact, to get. In fact, I have two questions. My first question
Yeah.
is regarding the whole bunch of questions I asked you on the mail. And the second question, and to know, in fact, when you intend to reply. And the
Yeah, go ahead.
And the second question is more specifically about a discussion around AGC as a front end of the recorder. And I would like you to give me your comment about my interpretation. It's not really what I asked you in my mail, but it's just because we will have a discussion tomorrow with the customer, and I don't want to say some stupid things, and to make sure that technically everything is aligned.
Correct. And I apologize. We haven't responded. I know Gary looked at your questions and they've sent them to me, and I ultimately need to answer them. And I've been a little behind, but let me see if I can bring up quickly to help you for your meeting tomorrow. Let's see. Oh, where is that? Yeah.
We maybe can close some subjects, but I don't know if you.
Yes, I wanted to look at all the questions because I think it's easier to answer most of them in one shot. Let me see what we have here. Okay. Oh,
The last changes I made are dated last week on the 9th of May.
okay. 9th of May. Gotcha. Yes, I have those right here. And then the email from today. Is it today? Monday. Let's see.
No, on Thursday.
Thursday. Okay. Yes, that was Thursday. And I see email today, and that must have just come through then.
You get something from today? No.
Oh, I see. It came from Gary. I'm sorry. Gary just sent me an email.
Ah, okay. No, but Gary,
He did.
I talked to Gary a few minutes ago to get
Okay.
some information because I believed he was able to answer my second question, not the first one. He told me that the first one was passed, the list of questions was passed to you. So I asked him, in fact, the second question to give me my interpretation about AGC in record. And maybe you
Okay.
can. This is, in fact, a key point because during my last meeting with the customer, um, I, I detected that the customer is quite familiar with receivers, RF receivers.
Okay.
So in his experience, he believes that maybe the recorder has got some similar front end and behavior in the recorder than in the receiver. And after thinking it quite a long time on my own, I guess there is a misunderstanding between a receiver and a recorder, which is not processing the same things. So if you don't mind, I can just expose what my feeling is regarding that.
Yeah.
And
And let me then help you know what we're doing so that you can talk to the customer correctly.
right,
Absolutely.
a receiver, receiver. We are selling also receivers, okay? So
Okay.
from GDP, Lumistar, and other people, okay? So we know that a receiver receive RF signals during flight test. This RF signal during flight test is very unstable and can just bounce, just drop sometimes and go up again and so on. So there are some variation in the amplitude of the signal. And this is due to the flight test actually. And what happened is that after the RF section, the RF, there is a down converter which is moving the RF to a IF. I'm not. Are you familiar with receivers? Some.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm very familiar,
Oh, okay.
and we do things very similar.
So IF requires a very stable signal in order for the demodulation to process the IF with a good BTR rate. And in order
Correct.
to do that, so in order to make the receiver working properly, we need to have the AGC in the front end of the RF section in order, in fact, to stabilize the signal. And
Makes
this
sense.
to stabilize, to make the signal very constant and not moving up and down.
And I agree with that.
Okay, so that's one point. In the mind of the customer, maybe I don't know, the AGC should do the same in the recorder, but the recorder does not require AGC, but because it's only sampling the data, or the analog signals in a number of bits, the resolution, which cover this type of problem, and the problem, the purpose of a recorder is not to change anything, it's just to record and play back exactly what was at the beginning.
Correct.
So
That's what we want to do.
So the question of AGC, you can put we can put an AGC in front of the recorder. It's if the customer is pleased with that, that's fine. But it doesn't improve the performance, the real performance of the recorder. It's just moving up the signals up, and but it will just change the level of the signals, but will not change anything in the performance of the recorder when it's connected to an RF receiver. Because the RF receiver has got the AGC to stabilize the signal.
correct. What I can give you a better idea of what we're doing and why, and this may be helpful.
Okay.
It's a little bit different than the receiver.
Okay.
And let me try to explain. The goal of the recorder is to take the RF signal as it is and try to reproduce it just as it was when it came in. We're not trying to make it better. We don't want it to be worse. We're trying to make it the same. Now, and that is because most people are using an RF recorder and then feeding that, playing it back to a receiver afterwards, and they want it to be real. So, the real signal from an RF antenna and a flight test, just as you described, the signal is bouncing up and down. If the missile turns, you might get multipath or cancellation, so you could have signal energy that's very high or very low. Also, from all of our flight testing that we do, if we're up close to the missile or aircraft, we have a very strong signal. As it travels away from us and it heads to the horizon, the signal gets weak. So the scenario typically is we would have RF energy from very, very weak, which might be noise level, way down low, up to something very strong if the signal was nearby. So I always start with the idea that from a raw signal standpoint, we might see 0 dBm. Pick some number, maybe -10, 0, and that will go down potentially to, say, -100 dBm. So you could have 100 dB or more of variation. Now, that will change. It'll change very quickly if it's an antenna issue, like dropouts, nulls. It will change slowly if it's a near-far kind of issue, meaning the signal is less as it gets further away. Inside the recorder, what we want to do is really two things. We want to faithfully be able to record the signal so we can reproduce it. In order to do that, we need to make sure that we don't saturate our front end, drive it into compression or nonlinearity. That's a bad thing. So we use AGC to detect signal level and to keep us in the linear good region of our RF electronics, and ideally give us the biggest signal we can make into ultimately the A to D converter. So the two pieces that we have, and this is the way to think about it, is we have the dynamic range of the A to D converter. I can put full ±1 volt into that converter. If that converter is a 16-bit converter, I have 1 volt divided by 65,000, ideally, that much range. What I want is for us to use all of that as best we can. So our AGC, we have variable gain amplifiers, attenuators, and we will dynamically increase or decrease in order to maximize the signal at the A to D converter. We don't move it around quickly. We like to move it slowly, and that's so that we don't excite the front end and drive it into compression.
So
What we do is, go ahead, sorry,
the AGC time constant is very slow.
is very slow, correct. And we want it to be slow. We're not trying to follow antenna changes. The dynamic range of the A to D converter does that for us. Because all of a sudden, if the signal went from half a volt to 10 millivolts, the A to D converter picks that up. So our amplifiers in the AGC circuit is just to keep us in the middle of that range. So
Okay. Mhm.
we record all the control we send to our variable gain amplifiers, and that's recorded with our data. When we play back, we take that information and we invert it, if you will,
Okay.
and reapply. If we put gain on the signal, we put attenuation on the output to bring it back to what it looked like when it came in. That's a lot of words.
You know, I understand very well these things. So it's a completely different way of thinking. It's very important to put AGC, to keep it in the linear range of the ADC amplifier,
Absolutely, yes.
converter, sorry. And,
Yeah, and that's correct.
And so when you say AGC reverse is the reverse operation to provide on the output exactly the signal which was on the input,
Correct, correct.
with the option eventually to uplift the whole signal range with a 10 dB, I guess in my mind, in my memory, a 10 dB gain.
Yeah, in other words, if we have two modes right now, one we call, when we play back, we call enabled AGC, which means we use that inverted AGC.
Okay.
The other is fixed, where instead of creating what the signal was, we bring it out to a fixed level.
That means that you are not applying the reverse AGC.
Exactly.
So the signal is different because it's AGC modified plus
Yes.
X rate, which is a 10 dB.
Yes, that's completely correct.
And what is the purpose of that?
Well,
In which
think of it as,
in which
in some
condition?
application.
Yeah.
in some applications, people don't care what the signal was when it came in. They just want to get the best or biggest signal back out. It'd be as if this was the IF level that's already been AGC'd.
Okay.
It would be just like that.
Okay, I understand your point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So it allows me to talk to the customer without saying bullshit. And,
Good.
also, it makes sense. In fact, there is a reason where, in fact, the normal way of using it is AGC, but not for the same reason than a receiver. So, the reason I am asking is that they are asking for minus 110 dB instead of the minus 80.
Gotcha.
And that's why they are asking for a minus 110, because they are thinking it's a receiver. Something like that, you know?
And that may be why, yes.
And I'm trying to detect all the potential issues because the discussion is very difficult when you have a public tender to discuss with them. It's not fluent, it's not interactive, so I need in fact to guess why they are asking this question and not another one. And sometimes it helps me to understand where are the troubles and where he is anxious. And so, okay, I understand this point. So just to say the right way, so the linearity of the ADC, is it an amplifier or it's a converter, but is it also an amplifier? You have a
Well,
variable amplifier in front of an ADC or something like that?
think of it this way. We have, let me describe it a little fuller. The RF signal comes in.
Yeah.
While we're in the RF, we filter, and we have a variable gain amplifier stage. So I can control,
Okay.
I can either attenuate the signal or I can give it gain. Then I end up mixing it down to IF, and I have another set of variable gain amplifiers.
Okay.
All of that together is what we call the AGC. So we have automatic gain control based
Okay.
on our measured, and we wait till we get the signal into the A to D converter, which allows us to measure the signal level.
Mhm.
And then we feed back through software, firmware,
Okay.
to control the variable gain amplifiers.
The two levels and the two stage before.
Yes. And
Okay.
the reason we do two stages at different frequencies is so we can put a lot of gain.
Okay.
If you did it all in one frequency, it's hard to keep it from oscillating or doing crazy things. So separating it in stages allows us to be more stable.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I understand this point, and thank you very much for this clarification.
Absolutely.
So it's a better understanding.
Well, I'm sorry we've taken so long on your questions. I will make a point to print them out and take them home with me tonight. Do a little homework.
Yeah, a little bit. It's from my point of view, it's not very difficult. If you have a schematic of that, a block diagram, it would be nice. I don't know if you have it somewhere, but you don't have it in the manual. I don't see. It's specifically to analog, but if you have
I
something,
thought,
if you have a block
didn't
diagram,
I
that's
send,
fine.
didn't I send a block
Oh, sorry,
diagram?
sorry. I am saying the words, and in the same time, I am just wondering. But I saw something. I put a block diagram in the. Just let me just have a quick look on that, if you don't mind. I see. See, this is the one. Okay, block diagram. Okay, GC. So okay, so you have the IF. Okay, the two channels. Okay, with the first VGA. Okay, and second VGA. Okay, and give you okay. Okay, great.
Good.
Okay, I understand.
Good. Well, I hope it goes well tomorrow.
Yes, I hope so too. We are really crossing the figures. It's not the decision will not be taken before, I guess, September. But it
That's
should
what I saw that in your email. Does that concern you, or are you
no,
that
not at all.
moved away?
Not at all. It's
Okay.
better because, in fact, it gives me time to prepare myself. Because if I need to teach the customer about the confusion, it's some time. So in order to have the right question and not the bad questions, so it's not just replying the questions. It's also explaining why the questions maybe not applicable in that case. So,
Understand.
oh,
I was worried that if it moved to September, that other companies would have more of an opportunity to get in. But
no, everything is closed in August. So just take that in
oh,
account. And
okay,
no, it really, the thing is, it's in the pipe now, and the order will be placed this year for sure. There is absolutely no way not to have a purchase order this year.
good,
Okay, so
good.
that's for sure. Okay, the question is now that we have to present a document, a complete set of document which explain everything clearly and which may convince them. So I put some words together in my questions. So feel free to answer the questions, please.
Yeah,
So we
I
can
will.
go ahead and we'll see what happened. I need, in fact, to clear the things also uh, for them, but also for you, so we are aligned. Everybody is aligned each other. So
Yes,
it's very important.
I agree. Pierre, you had mentioned originally we had talked about ETTC coming up,
Yes.
and that your customers might be there, but it sounded like last conversation
Yeah.
that they would not be, or
There is. It's not 100% sure, but I will ask some other people working with them to come over. One department locating near, not quite far from Toulouse, but they have some flight tests in this period of time. So maybe they will be there, maybe not. It's a little bit not sure right now. But last time they told me no, normally we should not be there. But these people are gathering all the needs from a few different sites in France. In fact, all the DGA, all the MOD, French MOD sites. So all the ranges. Actually, it's 100% of the ranges.
well,
And they are in fact buying for 100% of the ranges. And
interesting.
in order to do that, these people, if these people are not there, you're gonna have some other people, uh, maybe located in other sites, uh, who are in fact the people who are requesting the unit.
Okay,
So there are talks together, and so it's another way to turn around the thing. So that's why, in fact, they may the two people, the two guys who was in the meetings, in the last meetings, these two guys may not be there and should not be there at the day of today, but other people will be for sure. And
okay,
that's why I requested. I heard that Mike and Gary are coming over,
yes, they are both.
so that's great, and it will help me, in fact, to just push a little bit the product ahead, and also to give some presentation maybe of the GUI. Maybe there will be
Yes,
some presentation to be provided, so I don't need to have a fully operational recorder, but just showing that we are doing 200 megahertz in S-band or C-band
yes,
with a GUI. It helps the feeling that the product exists.
absolutely, absolutely, and it does. I just wanted to hear from you that it's still important for us to get a 9300 to that show, and we will.
Okay.
Um,
But
and just
again,
yeah, go ahead.
if you put a damaged board inside, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, understand. I like to be real, and just so you know, and I'd like to share. The recorder that we're using down at Cape Canaveral
Right.
for in this case, it's part of NASA. They've been using it now for a number of rocket launches, and so far they are very happy. And this is the group that we were working the signal control.
Okay.
And it wasn't working as well before. Now it seems to be working very well for them. So I'll keep you informed, but I think
Okay.
we're
And what did
feeling
you
good about
change? That's very important to know all the
Yeah.
details, because and it was part of my discussion with Mike from the beginning, because I know I heard that you were facing Zodiac as a competitor there, and that
Yes.
it was not going well at the beginning. And I am an engineer, so I understand that the new product are not performing 100% of their performance right away. So, but the question is not to have a problem; it's to know if we can solve it and how we can solve it and how fast we can solve
Absolutely.
it. So,
And the problem, because I was down for one of these launches and I was able to see it, and the problem was their environment is so noisy with cell phones and other jammers that we were running our AGC too close to the high end. And
okay,
what would happen is anytime the signal would drop down a little bit, AGC would kick it in and it would saturate. So very simply, we just set the threshold lower,
Hmm.
and all that variation just rides right at the top and didn't give us any more problems. So a very simple, easy fix.
It's
And
a trade. Uh, how you
it,
call it? Trade
it's a trade-off.
trade-off.
Yes,
A
trade-off.
trade-off. Yeah. It's
Exactly. We took away basically a top bit,
mm,
and then we can respond more slowly, and that was working very well. The customer, I went out to dinner with him, or lunch, I think it was, and when he first saw the real system, he was saying nobody else has anything like it.
mm,
And that's because we were doing the full 200 megahertz. And he would be aware of Zodiac and others.
mm.
And he says nobody is even close to that. So we're very encouraged.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Question regarding so the solid state disks.
Yes.
I put a few questions, but just to one question before leaving. Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe the customer will also be interesting to know how the disk bank is made of.
Oh, that's right. I saw questions.
And
Yes.
Also the price issue also, and a few things like that. But I leave you the questions. I'm sure it will be quicker to answer after this interactive discussion of
Yes,
today,
it will.
and it makes the things a little bit easier also for me to understand your responses.
Well, I will get you some answers tonight.
Okay. Wonderful,
Once I go
wonderful.
home and have a big glass of of rum. There we go.
Of Morito.
And then yes, and then I will give you some answers,
Okay,
and then
great.
hopefully that will help you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. And
So
I hope you will perform most of the questions, but it will be very very helpful for me. Tomorrow it will
yes,
be only my target is only to tell them, okay, don't ask me the same front end than a receiver. That's the only question, the only point I wanted to just to point them out, because
hmm
I don't want them to compare that to a receiver front end, and that's the
That-
question.
And that would be different. Absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, March, and I'm waiting for your answers. Okay.
Sounds good. Have a good
Okay.
evening.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.